Mark Rogers TV on college football and more expansion-related news coming out of the Big Ten on Thursday as the conference announced, as expected, that it will go to a 9-game conference season beginning in 2016. Of course, Maryland and Rutgers jump on board in 2014, expanding the league to 14 teams. The conference had to wait until 2016 to honor some non-conference contracts and non-conference scheduling. So with 14 teams, a 9-game in-conference season certainly makes sense because otherwise with 8 games, a lot of teams playing in opposite divisions would wait years and years to play one another. So you've got to go to 9 conference games. All right, this of course, do the math, reduces the non-conference schedule from 4 to 3 games. Now this is not an issue. If you look at the Big Ten schedules, certainly with a lot of teams playing non-FBS schools, also playing a lot of MAC competition, this is certainly not an issue. We would expect the better teams in the Big Ten to play a marquee matchup out of those 3 non-conference games, and then maybe a mid-level BCS conference type team, and then a MAC school. So dropping the one non-conference game is not going to matter. Commissioner Jim Delaney is certainly making a statement and has since the 4-team playoff that begins in 2014 was announced that the Big Ten, in order to, on a regular basis, participate in the 14 playoff, has got to increase its national recognition and the weight of its non-conference play. So you've seen contracts signed just in the last couple years with Ohio State playing TCU and Tennessee and Oregon and Virginia Tech and Oklahoma in coming decades. Wisconsin signing against Alabama. Michigan State will play Alabama as well. So those type of matchups are good for college football, good for the Big Ten, win or lose, and certainly are necessary for the Big Ten to gain some national prominence again and have the type of resume to warrant playing in the 4-team playoff at the end of each season. Okay, so that makes sense from an in-conference standpoint and the standpoint of competing on a national level. All right, what doesn't make sense, to me at least, I see the reasoning, but it doesn't make sense to me, is that this is going to be a weighted schedule, meaning it's not a round-robin type of conference schedule in the divisions playing one another in a round-robin format. It's going to be weighted in regards to the expected powers, Ohio State, Michigan State to a lesser degree, Wisconsin and Nebraska, Penn State also, playing each other more often than the lower tier teams, or what's going to be expected to be the lower tier teams. That means there's going to be more marquee matchups for television, and that could help the Big Ten. That could make a much better resume for an upper division team in Ohio State or Michigan in trying to get into that 4-team playoff as long as they win those games. But it's going to be a tougher game or two for the upper tier teams to get through to try to sharpen up that record and that resume for a national playoff with that 4-team format starting in 2014. So that could work for or against the Big Ten depending on the national perception and the perception of how good the Big Ten is in any particular year. What it also is going to affect are those lower tier teams that are trying to make bowl games. So it's going to mean that the Indianas and Purdue's, the Illinois, are going to play each other more often, which is going to boost their record. Well, that could get them into bowl play. What the Big Ten is thinking here is that it's got to fill its bowl slots to make more money. There have been a number of times in recent years in which the Big Ten has not been able to fill all of its bowl slots, and they lose money. Even if it's the Motor City Bowl paying out $1 million, the Big Ten is losing out on that money when it can't fill all 9 or 10 of those bowl slots. So you get easier games, the lesser teams playing each other more often, more victories for the lower tier teams, and you fill up the bowl slots. The downside to that, of course, is the better teams are playing each other more often, and therefore there's more chance of a team that could be 12-0 or 11-1 being maybe 10-2 and missing out on a playoff situation. Also, it could bring some lesser teams, some teams that may not make bowl participation, to slot them into a bowl game that they're not ready for, and it could mean more postseason losses for the Big Ten. Those are our points on the 9-game conference schedule coming up in 2016 in the Big Ten. would love to hear from you Big Ten fans on this new schedule format on Mark Rogers TV.